Just say
So
what
I'm
you're
at a
saying, mate.
terrible age.
Yes, you are, and I think it reflects on society. You are at a terrible age, but I think Rich will attest to the fact that he's gone through it, or probably still maybe largely in it. I will sit here and say openly, I probably didn't reach where I really wanted to be until my late 30s. Like financially secure, doing something that I enjoy. Well, when I was working at the college, I didn't particularly enjoy it, but it was a stable income. I had a house. I felt like I wasn't living week to week. Felt like achievements I wanted to make had been made. What about you, Rich?
Yeah,
You
mate. I
there
think
or?
so. Yes, and I mean this time 2 years ago, me and my family were homeless. I left the army. I ended up working in retail. I was a store manager for two big retail chains. I kind of bunny hopped from one to the other. And I was shocking. I just kept falling out with my area manager. And I lost my job just before Christmas. And we just had a little boy. Things can change very, very quickly, Swano. But you're at an age where I hated my mid-20s because it's like, and I'm going to try and say this in a way that's as least patronizing as possible, right? You're kind of between still being
A
an
child and an
old
adult.
kid, if you like, yeah,
Yeah.
and a grown man. And yes, you are an adult, of course you are, but you kind of it takes a while to. And I'm not saying you made mistakes as a young lad, but your actions from when you're younger, they take years, mate, to kind of play out, and it might be to do with money, your living situation, maybe an ex-partner or a girl you're still with, relationship issues. It takes time for things to kind of iron out. And when older people say things work out in the end, they generally do, but it just takes time. I think you're at an age now where it's really difficult, mate. Your 20s are so difficult because you're not established yet, you're not secure, but you're not a kid either. You're still having to, and you have to prove yourself every single day, of course you do, but I think your 20s, especially this time right now, I'll let you into something that I've never said anything publicly. I debated suicide several times when I was in my 20s and very nearly did it several times as well. And
I can jump
if
in
I
on
was in
that the
my
same.
I'm the
yeah,
same.
if and you are living through a far more difficult time right now than I did in my 20s. So if you feel like you've not got everything together, if you feel like you are struggling day in, day out, I'm not surprised, mate. I am not surprised. But the fact that you're still here, you're still grinding, you work incredibly hard. Yes, you get early nights and you're a bit of a girl sometimes. It's to be expected. You work incredibly hard. You do your best every single day. I think that's testament to you, mate, that you're made of solid stuff, quite frankly.
It's all you can do at the end of the day. I could sit there and complain about it, and I did have a little bit of a moan then about, things are still. So I know I just moaned about it, but yeah, I could just roll over and go on benefits and just complain that my life's crap and there's no opportunity. But I'd much rather work the 2 or 3 jobs and be busy 5 out of 7 evenings a week and at least give
Do you
it,
want, do you want the
a
advice of an old
chance.
boy? Do you want the
Of
advice of an
course, I
old boy?
always want your advice, Bruce. Always.
If you need to go on benefits, go on fucking benefits, mate.
Nah, nah.
Seriously.
There,
No, no, no. Listen to me. Honestly, listen to me. There is no point, and take this from someone that did it. There is absolutely no point in flogging your guts out doing something you hate just to feel like you've got to attest to a narrative that maybe me and Rich or people who would listen to this would say, and people would turn around and say to you, "Oh, you're a benefit scrounger," blah 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 blah. I would definitely, if it was someone in their 30s or 40s, I'd have a very different opinion of it because I would say by then you should really be starting to focus on what you want to do with your life and how you're going to pay for things and stuff like that. But in your 20s, you're still very much in that. Exactly what Rich said. you're not a child, but you're not really a full. And I think the misconception is you turn 18 years old, you get classified as an adult, which is why I'm fundamentally against people voting at 16. I don't really think you develop as an adult till you're at least 25.
25,
Some people,
yeah.
I'm not going to say that for everybody, because some people do grow up quicker, and I witnessed that as an assessor of apprentices in construction. I saw lads coming into apprenticeships at 16 to 18 years old, and I would see the one guy who had a really stable upbringing. His father was probably a chippy or a bricky. He'd got him set up with nice gear. He was working for a good company. He'd rock up with his full, Fez tool gear, and you'd think, fuck. And he'd be in a group, and it's like it's the old Christmas present thing, isn't it? You don't need to be showing all your Christmas presents because it just pisses other people off. Then the rest of that group, the other 15 of them, would be struggling to buy a chisel. They would have a very different upbringing, a very different background, and you're trying to educate these guys where you've got one who's having money thrown at him and had a really stable upbringing to someone who hasn't had the same thing. And my job would be to treat them the same. Yet that the guy who's got all that gear has got aspirations, and one of the guys, I'm taking this from a very specific point of view, one of the guys I had, by the time he was 25 years old, he was running his own company, had 2 apprentices working for himself, and one of the apprentices actually, or one of the lads that ended up working for him, happened to be one of the lads who wasn't so well off. But your 20s, in my opinion, has got to be an exploratory period of time. And I know some people will disagree with what I say there and say, you should be fucking nose to the ground, get educated, get yourself... No. Because I still don't think most people understand what they want. Most people get drummed into them, a trade's the way to go, or university's the way to go. But I think you're still finding out who you are. And I think, Rich, you might be able to attest to this. When you go into the military, you're very much given an identity. And when so not a lot of people work this. I worked for the MOD in Germany with 2-6 artillery for 3 years before I went into education. So I saw the guys, the squaddies coming in, all the young lads and doing what they were doing, and saw what their attitude was, and saw how they were in this military situation. Whereas I lived in the civilian world, and there's a very different contrast between what they thought they were coming out to what they were actually used to. But you talk about this, Rich, because I think you got the experience there for that. How did you feel when you came out of the military? Lost a little bit?
Yeah, so what happens is when you go into the military, regardless of what age you go in and life is kind of put on pause. You don't really... I don't want to use the word grow, but you don't
sorry
really
to interrupt.
develop.
How old was you when you went in?
So I've actually been in the army twice. So the first time I went in, I was 16. It was in 2009. I did 2 years as an infantier. I broke both my legs on pre-deployment to Afghanistan, and one of them just didn't heal properly. And I was told, we're going to have to give you a medical discharge. There's no place for you in the army. It's scrambled, sorry. I then fought for 5-6 years, and in 5 years, sorry. Yes, and then in 2015, I rejoined again. I had to fight to get back in, so I rejoined again. So I was in from 2015 to the later part of 2022. So yeah, it was essentially what happened to me was I left school, worked at McDonald's, absolutely hated it, went and joined the army because that's what I thought. It was all I wanted to do, and I went and did that, and it was kind of like, whoa, I can't do that anymore. My body won't do it. My leg won't do it. They won't have me. So then I went into Civvy Street, and I bounced from job to job. I worked in nightclubs, bars. I worked in cafes, shops, all sorts. I took so many drugs. Like I don't remember most of what happened for that time period. I drank daily. I fell in with the wrong crowd. And then I joined back up, the army again. And I think what happened was, from 16
At what age did you rejoin?
Oh, what will I have been? So I rejoined 2016. What are we now? So 10 years ago. So
43.
I was 24 when I rejoined. I was 24 when I rejoined. But what happened essentially was I didn't really do any proper growing up in that time because I was either in the military or I was off my head. Like there was, and so for me, a lot of people say to me, why did you fall into activism essentially? And I say, well, you know, I left the army, and lots of things happened within the army. I worked with Special Reconnaissance Regiment, the Intelligence Corps, and I sort of bounced around a bit. I worked with Downing Street, as I've said publicly, and I saw lots of things that made me think, I don't want to be in the army anymore. I don't want to work for these people anymore. However, I think looking at it, the biggest wake-up call for me was that I hadn't really been subjected to reality properly yet. And then I left the army and I was like, whoa, what is going on? What's going on in this country? And then all of a sudden it was like, Mrs. is pregnant, you've got a kid on the way, you know, you've got to sort your house out. And it was like, oh, all of a sudden I was seeing the real world for what it was, and I thought, man, I need to speak up about some of this stuff, you know. So yeah, I'm still learning as I'm going. I mean, I'm 34 years of age. I don't know what I want to do with my life. That's the truth. I haven't got a clue. You kind of just expected to know, aren't you? That's the thing that I think screws a lot of people up. But you're at that point.
Well, I think you're expected and still expected to do what you did, join the military, get a trade, go to university, get a house, get on the property ladder, have a family, and it's just not feasible these days. And I think you're a product of that, Rich. Is you hit your 20s in the 21st century, where things had radically changed and have been radically changing over the time period you were probably in the military, and you come out into civilian life to the shit show we've got going on at the minute. So when you came out, was what date? 2008, did you say?
The second time. So
2022.
2022, I came out.
Oh, 2022. Wow.
May of 2022, yeah. So
Jeez.
4 years now, yeah.
Cheers,
Yeah.
7 years.
4 years this month. Yeah,
Going back
I
to
knew total I did.
Just going back to your advice, Bruce, on saying you might as well just take benefits and sort of figure it out. And you mentioned that there's no point doing something you don't love. The thing is, I love working, I love grafting, and I love feeling like I've got a purpose and importance in life. But
And that's
the
so important,
the
mate, and it's a
opportunity's
really
been
good
taken
thing.
away. It's the opportunity
Yes.
that's been taken away from us. Is there's no room to save. There's no room to invest. I'm very well travelled because there is no room to invest or save or anything. So I'd rather save up for a month and then go on holiday for a little bit. And, you know, that's the way I see the world. That's the way I learn and adapt and get my own experiences in life. But there's no part of me that just wants to sit and take money. I want to prove it for myself and for my kids in the future. And I think
And is that a personal thing, or is that more because you've got involved around like us and society that expects that of you?
No, personal, 100%. I started working 5 years old. My dad says, my mum says 8. There's a little bit of an argument there. Always worked for the family business. Always, you know, it wasn't just a shift in the shop. It was the paper rounds in the morning. It was going there at night for the alarms. It was getting the papers ready. It was shutting the shop. It was the accounting. I've always just been taught to work, work, work. And admittedly, I lost out on some things in childhood, but it paved the way for my own opportunity in terms of travel, in terms of experience, in terms of doing what I actually wanted to do. But I feel like that is slowly being taken away from me now. Even though I work just as hard, even though, you know, I want to do the same things in life.
Because it does play into this narrative that a lot, and we can have a discussion about this. It does play into this narrative where I think you've got a lot of very miserable under 30s in this country at the minute. A lot of miserable under 30s.
I don't know
And
many
think
that aren't.
Nah. Go on.
And that's it. I just don't know many that aren't anymore. People
Yeah.
they're in the same boat.
And you probably, you're not far off that bracket as well, Rich, are you? You're probably now in a situation where you've got a house and a family and you've got obligations to meet. I obviously am significantly older than the pair of you. Christ, was one of you old enough to be my son. Rich, Rich, you're actually not far off. There could have been, if I was 16 years old, that you could have been. But that's the difference in the void of us is I left school in 1993. When were you boys born?
98 for
Years
me.
before you left school.
I
5
left
years
school
after.
before you were even born. And, I've seen a very different, I've had a very different life. And I've got parents who again, they pushed me. I got pushed into a factory job when I was 16 years old. Never really knew what I wanted to do. I was the first of my siblings. So I was the oldest, and they kind of didn't know. My mum even admits this today. She didn't know what to do with me. So I kind of got pushed into factory work. Never really had, because back then it was like, get a job, pay your board, which I used to do. I used to pay board to my parents, 40 quid a week. Pay your board, go out on the piss all weekend. And I did that for the best part of 15 years. Like, that was my life
And
up
do you
until I was
know,
about 31.
there's nothing. I'm still a big advocate for that, yeah, because my mum was essentially the same. She said, right, I always had an issue with education, with being told to sit at a desk, right? I don't know why I went into the army, being told what to do, and no, I won't tell you the full story because people will try and twist it. They'll snip it. I got expelled from school from my history class because we were told to do a project essentially on leaders throughout history. Now, I always had an issue with history at its core because I always used to have this argument, even at 13, 14, 15 years of age. I used to say, but how do we know? And the teacher would say, well, because it's written in a book. And I used to say, well, how do we know that whoever's written the book is telling the truth? And I used to get into arguments with my history teacher to the point where I got expelled from school for 4 days for arguing with the history teacher over what was essentially a difference of opinion, right? And straight away I was like, I do not like education. I didn't like teachers. I didn't like the fact that they were like, well, because I'm telling you it's the truth, it just is. And so I basically got told by my mum, you either go to college after school or you go to work. There's no sitting about. So I went, do you know what? I'll go to work. Ended up going to McDonald's. Again, absolutely hated it, blah, blah, blah. But I'm a massive advocate for parents saying to their kids, what are you going to do after school? I don't know, right? Why don't you just go and get a job? Go and get a job that means nothing to you. Go and get your beer tokens in, whatever you want to do, right? Turn up for your shifts, do your work. You're not really, you don't have to take it too seriously. And then on your days off, on your holidays, go and live your life for a little bit. Go and travel, go and do stuff. Go and make mistakes. Do you know what I mean? Go and meet the best and the worst people you ever will. Like, I think that's what's kind of missing now is that, and it's. I don't think it's parents' fault. I don't think it's the kids' fault. I think we live in a world now where it's very like, I mean, is it 18 to leave school now? Is that the new thing?
15.
No, you're forced into education now until you're 18 years old.
Yeah,
you have to do either sixth form or college when you leave school at 16.
So to me, it's the wrong way round completely. We need industry, we need innovators, we need people who can come up with new, fresh ideas, and that simply doesn't happen by keeping people locked in education for a longer period of time. That's just what I believe anyway. But
It comes from experience, I think. Being
absolutely,
into
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the amount of people who I met personally who have done school, gone to college, gone to a university, got their degree in, I don't know, fucking 16th century, Cambodian art. And then all of a sudden they're like, they're coming in at a senior level in a company and they haven't got the first idea of how to deal with people, never mind do the job.
But Rich, I don't think that's the case. I think they come out of university after this education and what they end up is just getting a foot in the door as a receptionist. I don't think they even get put into these senior positions. I think they're trained to go into you get the odd few that do, but I think they're trained to go into this situation where when they come out, they're at the lowest of the low and they've got no practical skills or life skills to actually.
There's two sides to it, because if you're talking about, say, for example, Tesco or wherever, an everyday job, then yes, I think you're right. But I think with the likes of, so like the police force now, they want you to have a university degree before you sign up. Okay, the British Army.
How ridiculous is that, by the way?
We had guys in the army who, Swano, if you've got a low battery, mate, if you need to get your charger, go for it. Just nip back when you're ready.
It's more complicated than that.
Okay, in the army, for example, who had been, they'd done tours. They've been in the army 20 years. They were staff sergeants. They were like battle worn. 21-year-olds just come in from university. Guess what? He's a second lieutenant now, and he's an officer, and he's in charge. It's like, it was nuts. It was absolutely nuts. Cut. Swano, do you need to go and charge your phone?
Just quickly, in my personal beliefs, a lot of the ideologies, the woke ideologies and the far left ideologies that we are seeing are coming out through our universities heavily. So it's very interesting that, all these chief of staff and stuff are getting put into these roles with the beliefs that they've got, and then seeing the treatment that people like us three are getting nationwide. Go on.
Education isn't about education. It's about filtering people. That's what I genuinely believe. I think children are put into the education system. Anybody like me who used to ask questions, who used to struggle with sitting still 8 hours a day and being told, this is what you should think, this is what you need to learn. Why do I need to learn that, miss? Well, because it's in the syllabus. Yeah, but why is that more important? Why is Pythagoras' theorem more important than learning how to do mortgages and work out interest rates and what to do with loans and how to run a household and stuff. It's not by coincidence that they got rid of these domestic lessons that they used to have back in the day 30, 40 years ago, you know. How
You're talking to a person who used to have them. I used to do
it's
home
no
economics.
coincidence that they got rid of that
Yeah.
stuff. Home economics, sorry, that's the one. So what they do is, or they take all these children who ask questions, all these children who think outside the box, outside the narrative. They label them as a problem. They give them shit test scores, and they say, you know, and shit reports, and they say, look, if you don't buck up, if you don't toe the line, if you don't sit there and do as you're told and learn what we tell you to learn and think what we tell you to think, you're not going to get a good report. And if you don't get a good report, you're not going to go to college. And then if they don't go to college because they're a problem, guess who does get to go to college? The people who sat there and towed the line and learned the lessons and didn't ask questions. They go to college. They then get their college certificates, right? Those people then get filtered down again, because people who get halfway through college and think, don't want to do this, want to go and get a job, why am I learning this? They get filtered again. Then the ones who don't leave college, who go through that filter, then end up in the university system. And before you know it, these people are 19, 20, 21 years of age, sew up their own fucking arses because they've managed to memorize some text from some books. It's not a marker of intelligence. They've been able to memorize something. If anything, I think it's the complete opposite. I think those who are more willing to sit there, shut up, put up, not go against the narrative, not ask questions, are actually less intelligent than those who go, actually, I don't agree with that because of X, Y, and Z. So they get filtered again. Then these people get their degrees, they get pumped into these positions in the military, in councils, in our NHS, in the
NGOs, think tanks, the civil service, the banking system, finance, everything.
Yes, because these people are so fucking indoctrinated by a system from an early age that they genuinely believe that they are there because they are the most intelligent people, and they don't ask questions. They follow the DEI bullshit, and the rest of us are we're scum. That's what
I think we actually we started this conversation about woe is Swanee's life, woe is Swano's life, and how he's okay and there's options and don't worry, it gets better, mate. But I think, Rich, you've absolutely summed that up. I've worked it and seen it happen. I've seen it. I've been part of it. Not a part of it happening, luckily, because I think most of us that were assessing didn't sit in that lecturer sort of under the actual education system. We sat a little bit separate from it, but we saw it. I saw it. And I was very much product of the system you spoke about. I remember going to school, to middle school, and doing home economics, CDT. We used to go on a Friday afternoon in my middle school when I was 12, 13 years old, and we would learn to grind metal on a grinding machine in a craft design technology shop. We would make wooden products. We would learn to, like, in class at school, learn to wire a plug up. And, like, you just don't get that these days as much. And I think actually, Swan,
they are out there, but they're really hard to find. Really hard to find. My boss's daughter. Sorry, just quickly. My boss's daughter's found, he has found a nursery for her, and they spend all day outside in the woods. They're learning bushcraft. They're learning to use a compass and a map. So they are out there, but they're extremely difficult and probably expensive.
And usually, I've got one here. My boy goes to technically a forestry tech school. So he learns a lot of technology stuff, but he also learns a lot of environmental forestry stuff, like being outside and getting your hands dirty. They do it every Friday. It's really good. But then you get a lot of these, city schools there. It's very radicalized. They're very radicalized.
Yeah,
very
if you can
left.
find a Montessori nursery, do it, because that's what that is. It's the hands-on approach.
How did you feel your education was, mate?
Sorry, Spano, do you need to cut away? Because I'm just curious of the upload time.
I think we're going to need to. I've got 12%, so we need to upload now, if possible. I could charge my phone, except for I have to use the dish, and it has to be flat. And I can't stand up my phone. It doesn't plug in. I know, just another thing to deal with, Bruce. It's just broken in the last 2 weeks, but we're forgetting this one for now.
You could stand the dish up and sit your phone against it.
He's got a delay, so I don't.
Yeah, that's what
we'll try.
Have to do it.
We'll try.
Yeah, education, mate. It's a funny old one, but I think it is product of a lot of the problems we see today. I've always maintained I think apprenticeship should start at 14. Yeah, I think apprenticeship should start at 14 years old. I think if you're one of those people, and exactly what you said is so spot on, how they try and identify these problem kids. Like, you've got this, you've got that, you've got ADHD or troublemaker, you know, you're not towing the line. It's so been embedded in the education system for 20 years. Definitely since I left school, I've seen the change in it, especially working in it.
Did anyone see so it was years ago, it was about 10, 15 years ago, Jamie Oliver went into the schools and he said, look, there is a fundamental issue with the food that we're serving our children. It's ultra processed. It's full of sugar. Like, it's no good. And there have been multiple studies done globally that if you give children high quality singular foods, so like, you know, fish, carrots, like single ingredient foods, none of this, you know, chicken dinosaurs with smash and beans, which is what seems to be the case in most schools now. They found that test results, they went through the roof. Children could concentrate better. They were able to sit still. It was there in black and white. There was no refuting it. And they were like, yeah, but, you know, budgets and X, Y, Z. And it's like, no, these are our children. They should be getting the best quality food for their education if you truly cared about them. Did you see the way he was and I mean annihilated in the media for simply coming forward and saying, look, I think we should give our children better food in the schooling system? He was,
and the way they framed it, the way they framed it was like he's the bad guy. He says school's shit. He says the education system's shit. He was ultra condemned because he stepped out of that machine that feeds the process. It literally feeds the process.
Even now, I hear more people defending the argument of, oh, well, he took turkey dinosaurs away from us, or whatever they were, turkey Twizzlers or whatever. And it's
Turkey
like,
Twizzlers,
no,
and they were the bomb back in the day.
I know, but no one's saying what you're saying about how actually we should be providing that good care to our kids, because the media is programmed everyone to go, he took our turkey Twizzlers away, how dare he? And now everyone hates him.
And that'll be the headline. Yeah, that's the headline. Yeah. Condemn Jamie Oliver. Can't believe he... And people did. And I'll tell you who it probably largely was. The lefties.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was
I think it was a mixed bag.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, well, I think it was I can't remember exactly who constructed this. We might be able to fact check this and put this in later on, or drop something on the screen. I don't know. I'll send it to you, Bruce. But there were like teachers' unions, and like the parents came together and essentially protested Jamie Oliver because he was taking away the food that their children liked. And it's like, he's literally, I mean, it was so bad, the information that Jamie Oliver gave, especially in coincidence with these studies, that Bernard Matthews themselves went, oh my God, he's really thrown us under the bus here. He's exposed the ingredients that are in these turkey Twizzlers. They took them off sale. They only came back like 2 years ago. The recipe was that bad that when he put a spotlight on it, and we used to get turkey Twizzlers, man, like twice a week in our school. Like, I loved them. They were so good. I was a bit annoyed because I remember one day they used to oven bake them, but then they started deep frying them, and they were completely different. They weren't as nice. But he got them banned, like I say, and he put that much of a spotlight on this food that Bernard Matthews were just like, yeah, we're not selling these anymore. The cat's out of the bag. So, and rather than people go, this guy's a hero, like he's just got rid of that food, now our kids hopefully can have something better. He was just completely demonised. Step outside the system.
Demonised, ostracised. And that's when you see the machine kick in, because they've probably developed a whole education policy around this. And it will literally come from the fuel that kids are getting to help with their education. Because when you're trying to create a narrative, it's very easy to manipulate it simply with little things. Why could go, especially when they bring money into it, when it's like, oh, we haven't got the budget for it. It's shocking when they do that, especially for something like that. Especially when you see them basically now turning around saying we're going to give free school dinners out. Well, what is the quality of that school dinner? What are they being given? It's all very well saying it, but where is the money? Why are you not?
Do you know what's really annoying as well? So, like, I'm not going to name names. There are lots of schools now and nurseries where they will have vegan day, vegetarian day, etc., but they're not having like, a nice freshly made vegetable curry or something like that. They're having this fucking plant substitute bullshit where it's like there's 30 ingredients in this burger. It's a plant-based burger. But it's so plant-based. It's got like 25 different chemicals in it and 3 vegetables. That's how plant-based it is. It's because it's cheaper.
It's insanity.
They don't care about the quality.
It's just an alternate version of manufactured food, isn't it?
It's cheap and
Let's
nasty, and
demonise
they can
that.
pump it out.
Yeah. Yeah, let's demonise that and make another one that's so much healthier and more healthy for you, which is exactly
And
the
it
same
feeds
thing.
into this whole and I know I don't want to go too conspiratorial on this podcast because I know that's not necessarily what you're into, Bruce, or even let's see. There has got to be a reason why at every twist and turn, chemical-based food is being chosen over just fresh ingredients. I don't care, right? You can go and buy a bag of carrots from Aldi for 19p a kilo of carrots, right? Now, we can get fruit and veg cheap enough. We just can. There's got to be a reason why at every twist and turn our children are given the worst possible foods. Anyone who comes forward and says, actually, shouldn't we be giving them better alternatives, are then demonised. But then on top of that, things like home economics are gone. We used to have to cook in school. Like, I think it was like once a week we had to go and bake a cake or, make a stew or a curry or a pie or something. It doesn't happen now. It's like, no, take away their ability to make their own food and then just shove shit down their throats.
You think I don't get, like, it's not, and I don't, this is not conspiracy. Back when I was a kid, if you were in any kind of like village or town, I can tell you now, you ask anyone, even you might remember this, Rich, there used to be apple trees, greengage trees, plum trees, gooseberry bushes, blackcurrant bushes everywhere. You'd even get them in town centres sometimes, apple trees. Then I suppose this is a little bit of the conspiracy, but I think when you actually step back and look at it in the past and look at the narrative we see today, that's free food. It was everywhere. And I remember my parents going back to what we said in the previous episode, I remember my parents turning around and saying to me, like, get out or it might have even been this episode, get out in the morning, go off and have your day. What about lunch? Go and pick some fruit off the trees. That's what we get told. And we'd go and load up with apples and greengages and pears and we'd go scrumping. Christ, scrumping doesn't even exist. Do you even know what scrumping means, Swano?
No idea.
What?
We've got blackberries where I live, so I can tell you what blackberry picking is, but that's as far as that goes.
Scrumping, mate, was basically if anyone you would jump into people's gardens and nick an apple off their tree, like you would go and just take free food. It's free food, effectively. If it was in someone's, but you went scrumping. Scrumping was basically you went and picked fruit and you hoarded it and then you ate it.
But it's like what they're doing.
There was a policy came out. There was a I can't remember the exact date. I did a video on this a while ago. A policy came out. Can't remember exactly when, but basically, loads of people in the general public, I don't want to name names, but people in the general public made loads of complaints saying that these apple trees and stuff were attracting bees. Yeah, let's get rid of all the bees. They were attracting bees. They were attracting insects, environmental stuff, the good things that actually run the planet. Mm-hmm. We need to get rid of them. They make a mess on the floor. They're a real pain in the ass to clear up. So the conspiracy is that they generally use that as an excuse to get rid of free food, because it was freely available across the board. And I think most people throughout the 60s, 70s and 80s would know this stuff. Definitely into the 90s and on was when it all started getting restricted. And then you started seeing more and more councils chopping down these trees, replacing them with other trees, that were supposed to be good for certain bugs, which were really bad for other bugs. And you gradually saw this all wind back. So there's in my village, there used to be 3 plum trees we knew about. There was a greengage tree. They're all gone now. They were either killed off for whatever reason, something needed to be built, or it was blocking some pathetic excuse. Not profitable was a means, an alternative of fresh fruit growing in the environment that people could just freely take, and that was gradually reduced. There are places now, I know they're trying to advocate for more allotments and things, but why reduce it in the first place? Because then you get into this green agenda. All of that stuff's been diminished or destroyed in some places to replace it with stuff that's basically pointless. Like there's a lot of greenery around the country, but a lot of it is pointless.
I think that's an excellent topic to come back to. From my side of things, there is a bit more of a conspiracy about our food control and food supply. They're doing similar with chickens and owning private animals now. But for today, I've got to leave it at that, I'm afraid. So we'll come back to that.
Have you seen the WEF's latest report on people growing their own food at home and how terribly awful it is for the environment to grow your own food? Go and have a look. So
well, there we go.
I was in the army years ago, and on most military bases you will find, because they were planted back in the day, apple trees, pear trees, all kinds of things, right? Obviously, the MOD owns lots of land. On that land, there are berries growing. There's all sorts. And I basically said years ago, I said, why don't we just, because 99%, I know we say our military are our heroes and all the rest of it, and in wartime, yes, we are, or, you know, if there's a flood or something like that. But 99.9% of the time, when you're in the military, you earn your money by sitting on your arse, dodging and skiving work and trying to do as little as possible, right? Just stay away from the boss. Don't get any shit jobs. And I said, look, why don't we go round and get all the apples and the pears and the plums and all the rest of it from the trees, right? Gooseberries and all sorts in the hedges. And why don't we, like, feed that into because basically you have to pay quite a lot of money on military camps for outsourced food. Basically, you've got like Sodexo, ISS, we used to call them ISIS. It was the food is awful. Okay, I'm going to send you some pictures of the food that I had in the army, Bruce. We're going to put it on this episode.
Mate, I've seen it. I worked in Mansa Barracks in Germany. I've seen it. We used to eat
fair
it.
one, yeah. And it's so expensive, and it's, again, you could buy burger, chips and beans for £1.15, but it was £4 for a salad. Like it made no sense. So I was like, why don't we use these ingredients that we've literally got here? Because every Friday we had to go around, pick up all the fucking apples off the road that had fallen onto the ground and all the rest of it. They turned to mush, and and I used to be like, why don't we use these? Why don't we, like, give these to the cookhouse, to the scoff house, and say, like, make apple crumbles, make desserts, make things with it. And they essentially come back, and it sort of went halfway up the chain of command, and they were like, yeah, we'll make the suggestion. And basically they came back and they just said, no, we've got our contracts in place. That's that. Like, leave it. They were quite.
Here's a chainsaw, chop it down.
About it. Yeah.
A bit backhander.
So, just old-fashioned common sense approaches to things they're tied up now, aren't they, in contracts and all sorts.